everybody. I'm Margie Romers Davis with Fast and Easy QBO, and I am so excited to have you join me on today's live stream. So if you joined us last week, then you know that we were having problems with the sample company. The sample company was going crazy, and so we weren't able to do our exercises, which were scheduled for last week. So this week, we're going to be covering all of the exercises that are in our new mini course called Getting Started the Fast and Easy Way. These are all of the exercises that help you lay the groundwork, that just ease you into using QBO. I posted them. I sent everybody an email. They will be linked down below if you're joining the recording later. And of course, if you're in the QBO Gym locker room, then you have access to our spreadsheet. So you have all of the exercises at your fingertips. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to go over those, those very basic exercises. We're going to start in the sample company. So here I am in the sample company. And the first exercise that we are going to work through is practicing a sales receipt. So if you're brand new, super important that you understand the terminology, the difference between a sales receipt and an invoice. An invoice is what we're going to go over next. Sales receipt's what we're doing right now. A sales receipt means that you are accepting payment at the time of the sale. So our sample company friend Craig, let's say he owns a shop and somebody comes in and buys something from him. And so you're just going to get payment right at the time of the sale. That is a sales receipt. And so that's what we're going to work through together today. All right, so first we're going to start in the sample company, and let's take a look at our scenario. It says Dylan Solfrank walked into Craig's shop and purchased a rock fountain with cash. Create a sales receipt to account for the sale. All right, so step one, we're going to click plus new and select sales receipt. So let's go ahead and do that. Here I am back in my sample company. I hit plus new, and then right here is sales receipt. So I click sales receipt. Let's go back to the sample exercise, or to the exercise right here, and we're on step two. In the customer field, start typing Dylan Solfrank, then click on the name when it appears. Now, Dylan is already in the database because he has purchased something from us before. If this were a brand new customer, I would have the opportunity right here to add a new customer. We're not going to do that in this lesson. So we're just going to select Dylan. He's been here before. We already have his information. Now, this is because he is purchasing at the time of the sale, we're not going to send out the sales receipt. This is just recording it for our purposes. If we did want to send him a copy, we could enter his email address right there. But for our purposes, we're not going to do that. So let's go ahead and go back to the exercise. So we've entered the name. Now it says use the drop-down menu in the payment method field to select cash. And I just realized I forgot to turn on my cursor. Let me do that so that you guys can see where I'm pointing. All right. So here we are. Use the drop-down menu to select payment method field as cash. All righty. And I am getting a message that I am not streaming this in the correct location. Oh, shoot. This is supposed to be for... All right, so we are on YouTube, and we're supposed to be just in the locker room. So, Joel, here's what you need to do is you need to copy the link from YouTube and paste it in the locker room. And then people can just click that link to be able to access that. My apologies to all the people. I set it up wrong. I set it up for a YouTube stream instead of a Facebook stream. Yikes. Anyway, so let me know if you need any help with that, and then we will get that squared away. All right, so here we are on our sales receipt, and what I was just talking about was the payment method. So remember in our scenario, Dylan paid with cash. So we're going to select the payment method and select cash right here. And then let me see, just got another message. Yes. So he wants to know if I'm sure that I'm broadcasting, and I am sure that I am broadcasting somewhere. I'm sure that it is, it's got the little YouTube symbol on it. So I'm pretty sure that I am broadcasting to YouTube. All right. So here we go. So we just paid in cash. Now, because we paid in cash, because Dylan paid in cash, that money is not going directly into the bank. Not quite yet. It's going to go into a holding area that is called undeposited funds, or some accounts it might say payments to deposit. But in this account, it says undeposited funds. That's a holding place for the cash and checks that haven't yet been deposited into the bank. I don't think that's actually in the exercise, just bonus training for you right now. Let's go back to our exercise. Let's see. We're on step 4. So now in the product and service field, we're going to start typing rock fountain, because remember, this is what Dylan purchased. So we're going to go right here to the product and service. And by the way, that whole thing about undeposited funds, like that's this whole lesson, like what happens, how do you get it into the bank? That's a whole different lesson. All right, so Dylan bought a rock fountain. So we put rock fountain right here. There's the description. All of this information came from, that's already coded into the QBO account. So we, as the bookkeeper, or Craig as the business owner, he already put in and said, these are all of the things that I sell. And he did that in the products and services list. Which again, that's another lesson. So anyway, it also in that products and services list, it says this is a rock fountain and this is how much I sell it for. So because of that, the rate automatically came across. This is what I sell it for. Okay, so we already decided that we are not going to send a copy to Dylan. We are just going to save it. Oh, I need to hop over to my thing to make sure we put in the rock fountain, step 5. Okay. Want to make sure that I don't get ahead of myself. I have a tendency to just talk and not go back and make sure you're following along. All right. So anyway, so because I'm not sending it to Dylan, I'm just going to hit the down arrow and then click save and close. I don't need to save and send. All right. And that's it for sales receipt. All right, so our next exercise, that was sales receipt. Actually, let me leave it open in case anybody has questions. And also while I do have the chat open. Okay, so I can see if anybody asks questions. Since I'm accidentally streaming this to YouTube, I don't know how the comments show up. So if you have any questions, I don't know, I guess you can put them in the chat and I guess I will see them. And I don't know how that all works, because usually I live stream directly into Facebook. So, but I set it up wrong. All right, so here we are with the next thing, which is an invoice. Now, we talked about the difference between a sales receipt and an invoice. A sales receipt is payment at the time of the sale. An invoice means you're going to get you make the sale and then you get the payment later. So, usually people have like 30 days to pay, right? Send you an invoice. I mean, you in your daily life, you experience this all the time. When you go to the grocery store, you pay for stuff at the time you get it, right? But other things like your electric bill, that comes in the mail and then you have a certain amount of time to pay it. So in QBO, that's called a sales receipt versus an invoice. So now we're going to talk about invoices, which are we're sending it out to the customer. The customer is then going to pay it later. So let's read our scenario. Okay. Craig contracted with Bill's windsurf shop to custom design their front patio. He ended up spending 5 hours on it, and now that the work is done, it's time to send an invoice. There's a little typo there. So Joel, if you could fix that little typo, maybe while we're talking, that would be great. Or just take a note we'll fix it later. That'd be awesome. All right, so step 1, we're going to also hit the plus new button, just like we did for the sales receipt. Okay, so I'm going to hit plus new, and this time I'm going to select invoice. Going back to our directions, okay, step 2. In the customer field, start typing Bill's Windsurf Shop and then click on the name when it appears. So this is similar to the sales receipt. This is because Bill has already bought something from us, and so he's already in the database. So we're going to click that. By the way, fun fact, Intuit just announced yesterday that they are completely changing the invoice interface. So they're rolling it out. Brand new accounts apparently have the new interface. They're rolling it out to everybody depending on how many invoices you have and what complicated features you have and all that. So very soon I'll be creating a new exercise for the new interface because Intuit is always changing things. So, but for right now, this is the way it is in the sample company. So I put in the customer. Let's go back to our exercise. So I put in the customer. Step 3. All right. In the product and service field, start typing design, then click custom design when it appears. And you know what, guys? I forgot our scenario because I've been talking so much. So let me go back to the scenario. Craig contracted with Bill's Windsurf Shop to custom design their front patio. He ended up spending 5 hours on it. Now that it's done, he wants to send the invoice. Okay, so now I remember 5 hours of custom design work. So here we go. The product service is design, and we're going to select custom design when it appears. Okay, design, and select custom design. Okay, so again, the products and services, everything that Craig sells are already pre-programmed into it. So you're going to go in as a bookkeeper, or Craig's going to go in as the owner and say, this is all the stuff that I sell, and then create that list inside of QuickBooks Online. And so it's going to have the description, it's going to have the name of the product, and it's also going to have in there the rate, what you charge. And so we said, I hope this is right because I forgot already, 5 hours. So I'm changing the quantity to 5. So QuickBooks is automatically going to do the math. And let's go back to our exercise. Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So step 4, change the quantity to 5, tab out of the field to automatically update the total. That's what you just saw me do. And then the last thing would normally be to save and send. Let's go back to the invoice. And we're not going to save and send because this is the sample company. Instead, we're just going to hit save and close. Even though there is the email address there, Intuit doesn't want to be inundated with our sample company emails, right? So we're just going to hit save and close. You know what I'm going to do? No, I'm going to hit save and close because that's what the exercise, I was going to show you something else, but I'm just going to hit save and close. That's what the exercise says. And I want to stick to the whole point of this live stream is to walk through the exercises with you. Okay. All right. So what does it say? The next step in the workflow would be to use a receive payment transaction to mark the invoice as paid, then deposit the money into the bank. You'll learn about these processes later in the course. So we have a whole nother lesson on how to receive payments for invoices, not part of the Getting Started course, part of our regular Fast and Easy QBO certification course. All right, so that's invoice. So we've done a sales receipt, invoice. I'm going to hammer this in because it's really important. Sales receipt, payment at the time of service. Invoice is when you give them time to be able to pay. And actually, I'm going to show you real quick because I forgot to show you this. It's not part of my instructions. I should put this in. Right here, this was the invoice. It looked very similar to a sales receipt. Right here, though, these are the terms. The terms are, in this case, net 30. That means they have 30 days to pay. And QuickBooks will automatically calculate the date based on those 30 days. And then you could, of course, change this to if you have different terms. I know one vendor who's like net 15 or, whatever. Okay, so that's invoice. If you look at a sales receipt, I'll show it to you again. The sales receipt does not have terms, So yeah, difference between a sales receipt and an invoice, very important. Now, both the sales receipt and the invoice are money in transactions. So Craig is getting money. Oh, I just had somebody say hi. Excellent. That means that it's working and I know how to see the comments. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anita. All right, so let's move on to money out transactions. So money out transactions are going to be very similar because they're going to be payment at the time of sale and they're going to be payment later. So hi LG, thank you for stopping by. All right. So payment at the time of sale, if it's money in, that's a sales receipt. If it's money out, that is an expense. Okay, so Craig goes to Home Depot, he buys $100 worth of nails, and we're going to record that as an expense. So let's take a look at our next exercise, which is about adding an expense. So here's our scenario. Craig just sold his last rock fountain. He just sold that to Dylan, right? He just sold his last rock fountain, so he needs to buy some more. He purchases 4 more fountains from his supplier, Tony Rondonwu, with his MasterCard. Now you need to record the purchase in QBO. So let's see how we do that. So we're going to go back to our sample company. We're going to hit plus new, and then we're going to, in the vendors column, before we were in the customers column, money in. Now we're going to be in the vendors column, money out. We're going to click expense. Okay, and who did we pay? We paid Tony Rondonwu. Okay, again, just like the customers, Tony is already pre-programmed in there, and so his information is going to come across. Let me switch over to the thing. Okay, we did plus new. Okay, we entered payee. We paid Tony Rondonwu. Step 3. We're going to use the drop-down method in the payment account to select MasterCard. Remember, that's how Craig paid for this. So we're going to go here, right here in the payment account. How did he pay for it? He paid for it with his credit card, his MasterCard. And next step, step 4. Okay, now we're going to click the arrow next to the item details because we're going to specify what he purchased. So let's talk about this for just a minute. We're going to go back to the expense, and I want to show you these 2 different grids. Okay, there's one here that's categories and one that is items. Okay, we only see this on expense forms. So here is the category details versus the item details. The item details is for things that we are specifically keeping track of. Now, when you go to Staples and you buy pens, okay, you can categorize that as office supplies, or you can categorize it as pens, right? So one is the general category and one is the specific item. And which one you're going to use depends on what exactly you're tracking. In this case, in the sample company, the rock fountain is an inventory product. That means that Craig is tracking exactly how many he has of those things and how much those things are worth. How much he spent on them, how much he sold them for. So that is so the rock fountains are a specific type of product that is inventory. Learning all about inventory, how all of that works, is part of the advanced course. And the subscribers, you have to have at least QBO Plus subscription level to even have inventory tracking. So I could, for my category, if I wanted to, I could just say job materials, right? Maybe so Craig's a landscaper. Maybe he goes and he just buys fertilizer and he just is tracking fertilizer. Or maybe he is tracking very specific things, like in this case, rock fountains. All right. So that's the difference between the category details and the item details. In this case, we're going to use the item details for the rock fountain. So let's go back to an expense. So here we just opened up the items details grid. So now we're going to type rock fountain. Rock fountain. I feel like that should be a song. All right. So you'll notice that what came across. So rock fountain was already pre-programmed in our customer, our products and services list. We put that in there. It automatically came out, and look at the price here. This says $125. This is the price that we purchased that rock fountain for. In the previous example, we sold a rock fountain to Dylan, okay? And when we sold that rock fountain to Dylan, I think it was like $275, right? But we don't buy it that would not be good business. Like if we sold it for the same price that we bought it, right? So there's always going to be that markup. But QBO keeps track of all of that. So the rock fountain we buy it at $125, we sell it at $275, and that's already pre-programmed in QBO. Okay, so how many? I believe we are buying 4 of these from Tony. So let's go on to our next steps. Change the quantity to 4 and change the amount. Okay, so I'm changing the quantity to 4. Oops, what am I doing? There we go. Change to 4. And when I click out of it, it will change the total. Okay, so now it changed. It said it's buying 4 of those. And this is just for our own records. I'm not sending Tony Tony has his own record of this sale, right? So I don't need to send it anywhere. Notice there's no email address or anything. And now at the bottom, it just says save and close. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so purchase at the time of sale. This one, money out. So can you guess what the next exercise is going to be? Of course, it's going to be the same thing, only we're paying later. So in QBO terms, that is called a bill. Now, this is really important because in real life, we use the term bill and invoice interchangeably, right? We just say, oh yeah, I got the invoice from Comcast, I got the bill from, whatever, right? We use them interchangeably. In QBO, they're very different things. And it's important that you keep that mentality, you keep them straight in your mind. So an invoice is something you send to customers so that they pay you. It's money in. A bill is something you receive from vendors that you then have to pay, and that's money out. Okay, so super important that you remember those two. All right, so let's look at how to add, and then we're also going to pay the bill. Okay, so what is our scenario? Craig just received the bill from his bookkeeper, Bessie. He needs to add and pay the bill. So let's go ahead and do that. So step 1 is first we're going to enter the bill. We're going to go back to our sample company here and hit plus. And then we're going to add the bill right here. Again, it's in the vendors column. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, so we're going to go to step 2. And for the vendor, we're going to select Books by Bessie. Books by Bessie. And I'm just going to close this little pop-up here. And notice what happened. It automatically populated based on the last bill that I got from Bessie. Okay, so the last time we paid a bill for her, it was categorized as legal and professional fees accounting, and it was $75. So let's see if that's what it is now. Actually, the scenario didn't say how much it was. I should change that. Joel, if you can make a note that I need to make the scenario for this add and pay a bill a little bit more robust. Ooh, I have a question. So is the bill setting up accounts payable? Yes, yes it is. When we enter the bill, that's going to add to our accounts payable account. Excellent question, Glenn. All right, so let's go back to, let's see, step 3, where were we? This is what I just said. QBO will automatically populate the category and item details with the information from the last bill that you paid this vendor. Since this one is the same, $75, all you need to do is save it. So we're going to use the drop down arrow in the green save and schedule button. Okay. So we're going to go back here. All right, so save and schedule payment. This is kind of a cool feature of QBO. Last year, I think it was, maybe in the last year and a half, QBO started integrating with a company called Melio. So it's an app called Melio that you can use to schedule payments online. You can't do it in the sample company. You can do it in real life. So for us, we're just going to hit save and close to close out this bill. So the next thing we have to do is pay that bill. Okay, so that was those instructions. So step number 4. Next, you'll need to pay the bill. So we're going to click plus new and select pay bills. Plus new, pay bills. All right, and here is our list of all of the bills that we have received. And here's the one that I just entered for Books by Bessie. So I could pay all of these at once, or I can just pay one. Let's see what our exercise says to do. Step 5, use the drop-down menu in the payment account to select checking. So right here, this is where you determine which account you're going to pay these bills from. So we're going to select checking. Excuse me. All right, so then step 6, we're going to enter 75 in the payment field across from Books by Bessie. Excuse me one sec while I get a drink. And then tab out of the field to automatically change the total payment amount. Okay, so Books by Bessie. So you notice that all of the bills, I have these boxes where I can put in the amount that I'm going to pay. So for Bessie, I'm going to go ahead and put in 75. And then when I click out, it updates the total. That's what I'm talking about right there. You'll also notice if we had any credit available, you would see it there as available also, and we could apply that credit. That's a little bit extra for, we're not going to do that in this basic lesson here, but just as an FYI. So now we've put in the 75. All right, and step 7, we're going to select save and close again. So now I could, if I were using Melio, I could schedule the payments online. I could schedule them all together. But for our purposes, for the exercise, we're just going to hit the arrow and then click save and close. All right. And that's it for sales receipts, invoices, expenses, bills, and paying bills. Okay, so those are our kind of basic foundational, super important things that you need to understand in order to, in order to be working in QBO. So let's talk two more. We're going to talk about two more quick topics that are really foundational that you need to understand in order to work in QBO. QuickBooks Online. So the first one is the practice of matching bank feeds. Now, you are going to be working in QuickBooks Online, and the whole purpose of QuickBooks is to record the financial transactions of the business. Okay, so you're going to record and categorize all of the purchases, all of the money that has come in. That's how you spend the bulk of your time, is categorizing all of those things. Now, the bank is what has in it all of the money in, money out transactions. And so what you can do, so what you want to do is you want to compare what the bank has to what you have in QBO and make any changes, any changes in QBO based on what's happening in the bank, because the bank is always right. The bank, remember that, the bank is always right. So what if the bank said it was $10.02 and you wrote in QBO that it was $10.05? Well, it's actually $10.02. That's what the bank has. So you need to make the adjustment then in QuickBooks Online. So let's talk about how we get started doing this comparing. Okay, so let's read our scenario. You have agreed to help Craig compare the transactions recorded by his bank to the transactions he has recorded in his QBO account. Okay, that's what I just described. Let's see how to do this. Step 1. From the left navigation bar, we're going to click Banking. So this is kind of weird that we can either click Banking here, or we can hover over it and click Banking here. Either way will get us to the same place, which is our banking tab. Now we're in the sample company, so there's pop-ups all over the place. And so we just need to close them. It's always going to assume, the sample company is always going to assume we don't know what we're doing and that we're brand new. So just move on, All right, let's go back to our question, our exercise here. Step 2, close the pop-up. I have that in the exercise. All right. Now, notice that there are 3 tiles. These represent Craig's 3 connected bank accounts. The first one, checking, is blue because that's the one that is currently selected. The orange 25 indicates that there are 25 transactions in the checking feed that are ready to review. You'll also see this number in the For Review tab. So let's take a look at that. So here I am back in my transaction. So here are the 3 accounts that are connected, 3 accounts that are connected to the bank. The blue one is the one that's currently selected. These are the 25 transactions that are ready for review. Also, it says here for review, there's 25. And right here is the list of all of the transactions that came across from the bank. So remember, the whole point is they came across from the bank, and now we're going to compare them to what we have in QBO to make sure that we have everything recorded properly in QBO. All right, let's go back to our exercise. All right, let's see, make sure there's nothing else. All right, step 4, scroll through the list to find the Hicks hardware transaction. On the bank side, a check in the amount of $228.75 has cleared. On the QBO side, Craig previously entered check number 75 for this amount. It's a match. Click Match. So let's take a look at that. So here I am in my sample company. I am scrolling down. I'm looking for Hicks Hardware. Here we go, Hicks Hardware. So this column right here, it says $228. This is how much was spent. So $278 was spent. That's what the bank says. And look, it found a match, check 75 to Hicks Hardware. And so we're going to click match. Ta-da, we did our first one. Click match. All right, step 5. Oops. Step 5. Notice that the numbers have adjusted. You now only have 24 transactions to review. So let's take a look at that. So I'm scrolling back up. Now it's 24 because I just matched that one transaction. Okay, so matching those, step 24, or we went down to 24. All right, number 6. Scroll through the list to find the Pam Sites transaction. This time, there are 2 transactions in the QBO that might be a match to the bank feed transaction. Which one is correct? Click view to see more details. Okay, so we're going to go back to bank transactions, and I'm going to look for Pam Sites. Here it is right here. And it says, oh, there's 2 matches found. There's 2 money out transactions for $75. And QBO doesn't know which one is the correct one that matches the bank. Okay. Well, if I look at it carefully, I can see that one of them was for Pam Sites and the other one was for Books by Bessie. Now, I can see with my own eyes, because I'm human, that the bank detail says Pam Sites. And so I know that this one is correct. The bank and QBO, they don't check that level of detail. They're just going to check the date and the amount and the type, right? The type of transaction, money out, money in. They don't know the level of detail. That's why we have our human eyes to go and look at it and say, oh, this is the one that's correct. So I'm going to select this one. It's already selected here with the dot for Pam Sites. Now, before I do this, I'm going to close. This is not in the exercise. This is what you get for being on here live, okay? I want to show you, if I scroll down even further, there's too much to put in the exercise. So I just want to show you. Look, there's a Books by Bessie one that also has 2 matches found. And if I click that one, Books by Bessie and Pam Sites. So it doesn't know which one is which. So that's why. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the Pam Sites one right here. I'm going to say, yes, this is the one to match. So I'm going to click match. And then look what happens. I'm going to scroll back down to the Books by Bessie one. Now there's only 1 match found because I matched the one from Pam Sites. And so now it's like, oh, the Books by Bessie one is out there, and that's the only one that matches. Okay. All right. And that is it for matching bank feeds. Let me just see. Number 7. When QBO initially looks for a match, it searches by amount. There were 2 transactions for this amount, so it stopped there. However, when you are looking at it, you can clearly see that one of the transactions was for Pam Sites, while the other was for Books by Bessie. The one for Pam Sites is already selected, so click match. That's what we did. And you can't see it because it's behind my head here, but it says finished. And that's it. As a bookkeeper, one of your jobs is to go through each of the transactions from the bank and attempt to match them to already existing transactions in QBO. What happens if you don't find a match? That's covered in our basic level certification course. You can click there to find out more. All right, so that is matching bank feeds. There's one more topic that's just a basic level topic that we need to talk about before I let you go, and that is reports. So the whole reason that we categorize all of the money in and the money out, the whole reason we keep track of our expenses is so that we can run reports. We need to run reports for the government so we know how much taxes we have to pay. We have to run reports for the business owner so that the business owner can make decisions about what they want. Maybe you want to run a report to see which product is your best-selling product and what's your worst-selling product, so you can maybe get rid of that one or make adjustments. So we run reports so that we can make adjustments, okay? And then the third reason is if we have to, any outside agencies other than the government, if there's other stakeholders, if you are a nonprofit and you have a board of directors, or if you have an investor that wants to come and is considering buying your business or giving you a loan or something, you want to look at the numbers. So the whole reason we do what we do is so that we can run reports. So let's just talk about a simple report and how to do that. Okay, so the scenario is Craig would like to see how much his business is worth right now. This should include all the money he has in his accounts, as well as the value of any assets he owns, like his inventory and truck, how much money his clients owe him, and what he owes to other people. This can all be seen on the balance sheet report. So let's create one for Craig. Okay, so step 1 from the left navigation bar, we're going to click Reports. Okay, so we're going to go here and click Reports. And then step 2, the balance sheet is a very popular report, so it's already marked as a favorite. Click Balance Sheet in this section, or either section is fine. So here it is. It's already marked as a favorite with that star, or I could scroll down and right here click Balance Sheet. Either one is fine. All right, and here is our balance sheet. Let's see what I have to say else about it. Okay. All right, and that's it. In the top section, notice the balances of each of Craig's bank accounts. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at the report I just ran. Okay, so here we have our bank accounts. Check our bank accounts. Accounts receivable. This is the amount of the invoices that we have sent out that haven't been paid yet. The total amount of inventory, what's in our inventory right now. Like I talked about those rock fountains, right? Undeposited funds. We, in a very, very, very beginning, Dylan Solfrank bought a rock fountain from us, and we got the cash, but we didn't put it in the bank yet. We didn't deposit it yet, so it's sitting there in undeposited funds. And then, of course, we have his truck. All right, somebody asked earlier about accounts payable. So accounts payable are all of the bills that have come in that we haven't paid yet. So that whole list, when we did that exercise and we saw all of those bills. Then we have how much we owe on our credit card, what our tax liabilities are. Notes is a loan. And then we have our equity accounts. So I think, let's see what else. Okay, accounts receivable is the amount of money his clients currently owe him. In this section, you can see the value of Craig's inventory and his truck. In the bottom section, you can see how much money he owes other people. You could present this report to Craig as is, or you could customize it in many ways. Learning how to customize reports as well as the other reports provided with QBO is covered in our basic level certification course. Okay. All right. So guys, that is it. What questions do you have for me on these very basic, very, very basic? We're just talking ground level stuff in this live stream today. So we're going to get more complicated. Just so you know, I accidentally streamed this live to YouTube accidentally. Typically, my live streams where I go over the exercises are only in our Facebook group, which is called the QBO Gym Locker Room. So if you search on Facebook, well, we'll have a link down below. It's hands-on practice for accountants and bookkeepers. And this is what we do, is we go through exercises hands-on so that you can actually get practice using QBO, get on-the-job experience without getting a job is what I say. So typically in the Facebook group, we vote on, I post a survey every week about what what exercises to cover, and then people vote on them. And then on our live stream, I go over those exercises. Inside the group, you have all the exercises for all of the courses that I have created, and we would love to have you join us. So let's see. So we had a question. I noticed that the sample company has retained earnings. Does QBO build this account in sole proprietor, even though retained earning is really a corporate type account? I have no idea. Let me just look at the sample company. If you know, what I tell people, Glenn, is that the sample company is a gift, and they have set up things that, I mean, there are specifically mistakes in there, I think, for us to catch. And they have set things up like in a weird, wacky, like normal way, like it would be in a business. And so I don't know. So if you go in the sample company and accountant settings, let's see, let me put it back up. Yeah, tax form, it just says not sure, other, or none. So I don't know. We just take what they give us in the sample company. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you about that. The other thing, if you don't have a lot of experience in the sample company, it does reset every night. So even if you were able to, well, not just every night, it resets every time you log out. So even if you were to set up, clean it up and have it done things the way you like, then the next time you logged in, it would all be back to the way that they had it before. So you're welcome, Glenn. Thanks for the question. All right. With that, guys, I am going to let you go. Next week, Thanksgiving week, there will not be a live stream next week due to the holiday. So the week after that, we will absolutely have our basic course live. We are going to be releasing the new basic course, which matches the current level of the basic certification test. That will be available next week. And so when we have our next live stream, that will already be live. So we'll see what the group votes on for what we want to do, because that will be live, and I will be working on payroll. So, all right, guys, for me, that is it. Have a wonderful holiday. If you have any questions that I didn't get answered here, make sure you reach out to us, support@fastandeasyqbo.com, and I will see you next time.